Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's ICCC webinar. Thanks for joining us. We are extremely happy to have Alina Kuderska with us today for the Power of Partnerships for Scaling and Growth webinar. Alina is an entrepreneur, adaptive fashion designer, and the owner of the fashion brand Sparky's. Founded in 2021, Sparky's aims to design stylish, comfortable, and functional garments for people with special needs, including mobility and recovery. Alina's goal is to make clothing easier for people with special needs, or make clothing easier and more comfortable for the wearer and the caregiver, promoting accessibility and inclusivity in fashion. Alina graduated with a degree in fashion design from the Fashion Institute of Technology. She also studied at Parsons School of Design in New York City, Central St. Martin's, and London College of Fashion. With over a decade of experience in fashion and textile design, Alina has worked for various fashion companies before launching Sparky's. She holds a bachelor's and master's degree in international economic relations and finance and has participated in programs from the New School, the United Nations, and World Order. She is also a certified yoga instructor, teaching yoga and meditation in her free time through her app, The Self Yoga. Before I turn it over to our presenter, just a friendly reminder to our audience. If you have any questions, feel free to submit them in the question box throughout the session, or raise your hand, come off mute. Alina is super excited to engage with everybody today. With that, I will pass it over to Alina.
All right. Thank you so much for this amazing introduction, Jordan. As it was said, yes, my name is Alina Kuderska, and I have my clothing brand Sparky's, and I'm very excited to have the opportunity to share a few thoughts about how I got to the point where I am right now, and hopefully be helpful to other people. I'm going to share my screen with a mini presentation that I have for you guys. Okay. And I would suggest throughout this presentation, as Jordan said, let's build it in the interactive mode. If you have any questions, please send them in the chat. And while I'm going to go through the presentation, I'm also going to answer your questions. Yeah, well, I guess one of the thoughts that I would love to share before we start with the presentation is that the field that I work in, specifically the adaptive design, is something that is not very popular yet. And the aspect of strategy, the topic of strategy was important for me personally. And that was not necessarily something that I was able to use as the roadmap from other businesses when I wanted to launch my own, because the industry and the niche where I work is very different. And there are so many different obstacles that I had to meet on the way that might be unconventional for the traditional businesses. And that's what made me excited to try and build the strategy that is going to work specifically for my business, for me, and how my spiritual perception on life, outview, could be reflected in the business, and how it can enhance my work, and vice versa. How the work and my business can be also the resource for me to fulfill myself on the path of spirituality, if that makes sense. Okay, so today we're going to talk about how to meet yourself in your business and be your friend for yourself. What does it mean, strategy and partnerships when you want to grow and scale up? The power of branding, including personal branding, and the power of personal growth, and how we can help ourselves to grow and how to overcome the obstacles. Um, as you may know, and as Jordan mentioned before, I also used to work in different companies and being on the side of the employee. And when I decided to start my own business, it felt lonely. It felt lonely because I had to switch so many gears, and um, it was just completely blank piece of paper for me that I needed to write it down. And as I say here, for me, it was a big adjustment, especially because I came from the stable employment where I was part of the existing system, where everything was understandable. And now I face the challenge that I had to build the system myself. And what I learned so far for the last 4 years, that the process of building the system is very exciting. It may be not so easy, and only you are the one who is going to set up the limit for yourself and to set up the threshold. And you always have the opportunity. Somebody wants to come in. I guess I can click admit. Yes. And you always will have the opportunity to scale up and think and come to the realization, why do you set up certain limits for yourself and how to outgrow them. That was huge for me personally. That's why I wanted to mention it here. That now you're the one who builds the system, and it's up to you how you're going to grow with your network and within your connections. Overcoming limiting beliefs about yourself and your business. Again, continuing the conversation that by understanding that we all come from different backgrounds, family histories, life experiences, we, at certain point in life, we come to the understanding that our whole life influenced us and made us to become and be who we are right now. And the good news that we can stop conditioning ourselves the way how we used to do it before, or some things that used to serve us well, we can keep doing, in being involved in the conditioning process, and that is also fine. But again, it is so much up to ourselves. And again, comparing the mindset of being the employee where I was the part of the existing system versus when I was establishing system myself, these processes, they were so different, and the understanding that even we are the one who are establishing these conditions, even though there will be always some factors from the outside, like right now we have political issues, tariffs, and so on, and many businesses, they are influenced by those conditions regardless. Like even me being in fashion, and we used to have our manufacturing production in one countries, then we started thinking maybe towards another countries to sustain ourselves in profitability. But still, even within that, we always have the opportunity to become someone new if we choose so. And I love to be the advocate of the statement that we shall and should allow ourselves to grow and evolve. And unless we scale up internally, I do believe that it is hard to scale up externally in business, and not to become too personal and going into, psychological aspects. But I guess since the topic of this conversation is about partnerships and scaling, uh, it didn't happen all of a sudden, but throughout the course of time, which I would say was about maybe, I would say probably through the course between 5 to 10 years, the mental self-realization about who I am in my life right now as the person, as the woman, as the friend, and partner, and so on. And I think almost all of us, we have some of our even like traumas and stuff, and how those things, they influence on what we say to ourselves, what we can do or what we cannot do, what level of ownership are we ready to take on in our business and our personal life, versus when we say to ourselves, well, things, they are the way they are and there is nothing I can do, or something like that. And I would say that it was important for me, and I'm still, and I do believe that this is the work in progress for all of us throughout the course of our life. And I would not want in any case to say that, I gained some super knowledge that nobody else has. It's the work in progress, but I still notice the shifts that the more I started to pay attention to who I am. What do I think about life? What do I think about myself? What is my source of strength? Let's use this word, versus why do I feel maybe less motivated in some areas of life? So the more I started to unpack those aspects of my life, the more I started to see how my business started to change, how the level of communication and partnerships started to grow, and how I started to allow myself to actually have it and to own what I want to own within my business and to become the creator of my life. And then the business comes secondary. Business is amazing, but it's always the outcome. I mean, at least in my perception, it is the outcome, the good outcome of these things. That's Thank you so much. I shared a little bit, but tried not to go too deep into personal. But if there would be any questions, I'm always happy to share more, of course. Now, the power of strategy. You should have the roadmap for yourself and your business. Things may not work out perfectly. You may find yourself not ready for something at the particular moment of time, and that's okay. Uh, well, I think this is also big, and the beautiful example about that is something that we actually just touched a little bit with Jordan upon, about vendors and manufacturing, and possibilities of sharing some words about manufacturing compliance. And me personally, I had the interesting journey with that. I never thought that I'm going to gain the substantial amount of knowledge in that field unless I had to face some sort of a huge problem with my business. And that was back, I think, almost 4 years ago. And I was doing manufacturing in India. It was during pandemic, yes, so 4 years ago. And we had some problems. Factories were closing, and we still needed to finish the production because, well, that's my reputation. And I had purchasing orders from the companies here in New York. Excuse me, not in New York, in close to Chicago, in America, I mean. And so I couldn't just say, I'm sorry, the production is not going to happen. That's just not acceptable. And I had to fly myself to India during pandemic, during Omicron, and it was quite an exciting journey. And we had to switch the hotels every 4 days because just everything was in lockdown and so many people were sick and so on. I mean, all of us, we had those stories during pandemic. And the outcome of that was that we moved our production to China. We successfully finished the cycle, and the product was delivered back to America. Yes, there was 2 weeks delay, but there was the legitimate explanation, and still we fulfilled the order, and the customer was satisfied with the result. But throughout the course of the journey, and when I had to face myself, what could be the challenges within the supply chain when things may not go perfectly the way you expected them to go, even though you had all the documents signed and so on, that was the starting point for me to dig into the quality control, compliance, international regulations, force majeure situations like this one, and so on. And I would say after the 4 years outside of my own business, I started partnering with another quality control company that has offices in 80 countries globally and help them also with compliance. So it's just the interesting journey. And the reason why I'm mentioning that is that whenever we think that some things didn't work out the way we thought, they supposed to work out initially, that could be the wonderful starting point of something amazing in our life. And please don't disregard those moments, and don't say yourself that just things were not good or you failed, because the understanding, what does it mean to fail? You may think that today you failed and tomorrow you would be happy that things happened actually the way they did. So that's actually the point that I wanted to share here. The power of giving back. The power of giving back is also huge. Giving back in both personal aspects and business. I would say for us specifically, because we design clothing for folks with special needs, and the way how I like to say different and beautiful abilities, because the understanding of what does it mean to be able versus maybe not as able, disabled, and so on. We live in this objective world, and it is in our power to reshape the dynamics. Maybe not all things are going to be as fast as we want them to be, but it is possible. And for those folks that may look into ideas of building communities and enhancing your partnerships, giving back is the amazing tool for that. And again, not only for business aspect, but just for personal, for your soul. And from the spiritual side, the more we give, the more we receive. Uh, yeah, I wanted to quickly look at the chat. Will we be able to receive the copy of the slides? Yes, of course, I can send you the copy of the slides, absolutely. I will send them to Jordan, and he is going to share them with everybody. And actually, I'm very happy that you asked for that, because these slides is just something that I wrote myself, as some thoughts that helped me, and just that they might be helpful to somebody else. It is amazing. So thank you so much. I'm just grateful for this question. And yeah, and what I learned also, that within our community, and the more we of course we sell the product, if we talk about clothing specifically, right? But I always, if I am present in the negotiations, I always like to help to show our potential partners the bigger picture of what they can be part of. And people in general, including myself, we like to we want to be good people, ideally, and we like to be part of something that is good. And by helping others to see what kind of a project they can be part of, if they are going to decide to partner with us as the business, ultimately I learned that people receive this information positively, because just why not? Such as, to be more specific with the example, when we had last year our conversation with the Macy's, the touch base, when we were doing the presentation to them, and I invited our models. They were modeling the product, and I was standing in front of the buyers, and I didn't try just to sell them Sparky's adaptive clothing, but I rather had conversation with them about what does it mean to have adaptive clothing on the shelves. What does it mean for the community? What does it mean for them as the company? And not necessarily them, but for the retail chain in general. How it can influence the next steps in life, such as, for example, maybe, and not actually maybe, for sure, by having a more bigger assortment of even apparel on the shelves of the retail or online. It will help ultimately folks with disabilities, special needs, to have better representation, because everybody would say, oh, hey, this is the product for me, and it is available, and it is available right next to another brand. And the situation was not like that, let's say a year ago or 2 years ago. So then maybe in a few years, there could be the question that the wages and salaries that are right now for the majority of people with disabilities that are minimal, maybe they would be higher, because maybe there would be some other voice that is also going to speak up and maybe going to decide some more progressive change. Or maybe then the working stations that, let's say, if right now the company would have 1 or 2 working stations for folks with special needs, with disabilities, maybe in 5 years or 6 years, instead of 2, there will be 5 or 6. We don't know, but this is the starting point. And what I notice, that when I speak to our partners like that, And I can show them that what we are doing right now may seem as the small step because maybe the industry is not as huge. Maybe some people say that it is still the blue market and it has the huge potential. We have this ChatGPT and Google, and they all say that the adaptive market is going to grow tremendously and so on. But when you share those additional components, people love them. And then at the end of the day, even though, yes, maybe you make a sale, but at the same time, you just build a partnership that can be sustainable, long lasting, and can grow into something additional outside of just signing the deal. And to enhance this point, we also host events, and I would encourage all businesses that are trying to build community or join the or become more sustainable within existing community to also work in the field of events, such as, let's say, why not to celebrate other outstanding folks within your community that maybe not only like your product, but can be also the spokespeople for who you are. And here of course, we live in the world of influencers and they're everywhere, but I don't know, I still probably prefer more traditional approach outside of just digital and TikTok and Instagram, just having the live conversation, ask questions, let them share their view, perspective, such as, let's say, last year we hosted amazing event at the Soho House in New York. They partnered with us and we invited some folks from the WeBank. And I know also ICCC, you guys also partnered with the WeBank. They were our guests. And some influencers who one of them, she used to be well, she's still a dancer. She used to be a dancer before, then she got some condition and she became the amazing advocate for other dancers who still want to reinvent themselves after they got disability and so on. Her name is Azel and she's an amazing woman. So things like that. So it's just fun. I would engage to, if again, if we speak about giving back to the community, working on the events, make sure that your events are also exciting, they're fun, and you enjoy what you are doing. Okay. Partnerships and the power of growing together. Kind of sharing the same thought that expanding the business to the marketplaces. So right now, our product is on Macy's, Walmart, QVC, online. We used to do business with some wholesale companies as well. For us specifically, it makes sense to be online because most folks, well, because if you think about, let's say, even Macy's on Herald Square, it may be not as easy for many people on the wheelchair to shop on the floor when it is so crowded. That's why it makes sense for them to shop online. So also, despite the big fact that we want to be offline for our specific business, it makes sense to be online. And the good point that I wanted to share here is that I had to make several attempts until some things started to fall into place. So, for example, when we initially had the first touch base with Walmart, back then Walmart didn't have the adaptive category on their website. It was about 3 years ago. I sent the application and I received the response no. I was very sad and disappointed. Then, 3 years later, Walmart reached out to us and they asked us if before we submitted our application, which I already forgot about. And I told yes, and they invited us to join their marketplace. So that was also a wonderful opportunity how sometimes even if we receive the negative response, it may not necessarily mean that it is the end. And maybe just the time, the situation didn't occur to be perfect. And you still need to keep working and some things are going to unwrap later. So that was a good example of that. Um, Again, community, I would also invite if you guys may think about if you would try to come up with the new ideas, or maybe you feel yourself stuck within your business, or maybe outside of business, some projects that you work on. What helps me personally is just if I feel that I am not being productive, maybe I can just put some things on hold and try to do something new, something different. Join some groups, go to the events, conventions, Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce is also the amazing place to be, and I would encourage all small businesses to join Chamber of Commerce, let it be New York or your local one. And the more you will show up there, the more you will build connections and relations with folks there. Same ICCC, also amazing accelerator. Myself, I participated there before, and this is also a wonderful place to build nice, sustainable, and good connections where everybody can be helpful to each other. Attend expos, events, and other gatherings. What I like also to do is to kind of classify the events, something that I'm doing for fun versus professional versus kind of in between, and put them on the schedule. And then I know that, and you kind of help yourself to stimulate your brain all the time, as long as if you have time, of course. Uh, and what I mean here is the one that help you grow, where you meet people outside of your comfort zone in the common business circle. Oh, this is also an interesting point. What helps me personally within those events or just the communities, try to meet people or attend the events that are very much outside of your current capabilities. That helps me personally to help myself to see bigger picture, because I noticed that still we have the tendency where we kind of have the perception of the world and we think that this is what we can do. And it just makes me exciting if I have the maybe dinner conversation with somebody, like I brought the example here below, with somebody who maybe not even within my field, but they are so much ahead of where I am right now. And it is not about competing with each other, but it is just rather allowing yourself to connect with the energy, exchange the energy through the conversation, and inspire yourself and let yourself digest, and also to allow yourself to reflect on what kind of growth, if I speak with somebody, do I feel comfortable accepting for myself, or maybe not? Because subconsciously we may meet some internal mental rejections. Maybe we may find ourselves, and I'm speaking more about myself, maybe I can find myself that, oh, this thing doesn't work for me. But then I love having honest conversation with myself, and to ask myself, does that type of growth really, is that type of growth really something that I'm not interested in, versus maybe I just have the mental block and I think that I cannot do that. And then if I have that mental block, so then I can just ask myself, what is it about indeed? Is it maybe it's just simply about self-love, or I don't know, just not being enough present in the moment of now and rather living in the past experiences where I needed to prove somebody whom I was supposed to be. And I speak right now more about, this like parents versus kids perception and things and so on. So just from that side, I love if I have the opportunity, like to give the example also what we spoke with Jordan a little bit. Last year, we were invited to the Venice Film Festival and we were speakers there. In addition to Venice Film Festival, because it is known for film, they also had the masterclass that was dedicated to um, art, film, and fashion for impact-driven businesses. And since our company is considered the one that is making an impact, we were invited. And yeah, that was amazing opportunity. And we shared the stage with wonderful actors and Kevin Costner, Susan Sarandon, and so on. And that was beautiful experience. And just to tell yourself that yes, you can be even there, and it is completely possible. And as long as you know why you are there and what kind of message you want to spread to the world, specifically for us, we spoke a lot about, again, adaptive design and inclusivity. And I was amazed, not necessarily surprised, but to me personally, since we work in this adaptive field in America, it seems that adaptive market kind of picks up and becomes to be more popular versus it is even less popular in Europe. And folks were asking, what is it and why are we doing what we're doing? And it is wonderful to be able to spread the word and to share the information. Okay, personal branding. I wanted to check if there are any other questions, Jordan, but for some reason I don't see the chat right now. So,
I don't see any questions at
okay,
the moment.
okay,
Just
okay,
some reiteration of your points on partnerships with
okay.
Chamber of Commerce and stuff.
Okay, thank you so much. Now, questions is also good. Oh, somebody said, Pamela said she works in the same sector and she understands the challenges. Thank you so much for saying that. Yeah. Personal branding. Well, I would say that personal branding is also important. And in personal branding, again, speaking about the conversation about how to enhance yourself and trying to think out of the box, that was one of the examples where me in the beginning, I underestimated personal branding. And I was the big advocate that you focus on your business and your product is going to eventually speak for yourself, for itself. And I still believe that that way. I think that way, excuse me. But I also realized that I will not be able to create the amazing product if I am not fully in touch with myself. And so everything starts from us, anyways. Going further into the spirituality, we can touch upon that everything starts with God, right? And then the God keeps channeling through all of us. But if speaking more, down to earth perceptions, uh, personal branding and by being able to answer yourself, are you and what are your values, your core beliefs? What do you stand for? What would you like to do versus would you not want like to do? What makes you excited and what would you like to give back to the community outside of your business? The deeper I started grow into self-realization about those questions, the more substantial shifts again I started doing with my business. I started having a more firm and solid foundation that I was seeking for within my business. Uh, I suggest if you have the idea and desire to explore those questions as well, try to explore your life around them, build your values, have your values, breathe through them, allow yourself to be the best spokesperson for yourself and your values, let your lifestyle reflect who you are. And what I say here that at the minimum, it will just help you to feel better about yourself. And on the higher level, you are going to keep growing into the larger projects. At least that was the journey for me. And I think it may help. It can be similar path to other people. Case study, enjoy business entrepreneurship, support innovative projects. Okay, yeah, so this is what I meant that yes, within personal branding, personally for me, since I came to the understanding that I like business and exciting projects. I apologize, by the way, for the noise if you hear. This is my Brooklyn apartment. And I was expecting something like that to happen. And as the result, so the way how it resonates with me is that I like to support other innovative projects, maybe even outside of my business, to do some volunteer work. And that's something that I don't expect to get paid, but it feels right to me. And as long as I can dedicate certain amount of time and that speaks to my values, I think that's the right thing to do. So I would invite and encourage other folks to do the same if they want to. These are great questions to explore. It makes sense how developing this personal branding will help excel your business. Yes, Cheryl, thank you so much for saying that. And to enhance again this thought, I know that whenever we come across maybe some coaching program, you will be asked those questions. But what I also learned that the fact that we have so many different resources where we can receive this, where we can get these questions, sometimes I feel that we can become less sensitive to them and not in fact even by answering them, not in fact going deep into in these questions, kind of being on the surface. So I would still love and suggest, if you guys have the opportunity, and I keep doing it myself as well, whenever answering these questions, try to overcome yourself and go even in the deeper sense, even in the deeper meaning, who you are. Where is that foundation that nobody can shake? Where is your true self? What amazing and beautiful thing can you represent? And what is the best version of yourself? In the nice, compassionate way, of course. And as the outcome of that, the next slide, see the bigger picture, see the big picture. um, as I said, I think that I believe in God a lot. So I believe that all of us, we have our journey that is guided by the divine and God. But still, I think it's in our power to see the bigger picture, allow ourselves to be involved in large scale projects, try to make the change for the better. And I guess what makes sense for me here specifically, and going back to the previous questions about what are your core beliefs and core values, by really getting connected with them, I think eventually that is the resource that will help you to move forward, even when things may be challenging, difficult, because there are so many times, even within our business, when things didn't work the way I thought they were supposed to work, and it was so easy just to stop and not to keep doing and pursuing things. But just because I had my deeper motivation about why I was doing what I was doing, that ultimately helped me to see this bigger picture and hopefully actually help other people as well. And I'm sure we can do that in any type of field, in any type of business. There's always the way how we can help others and make somebody else's life better. Personal growth. To thrive in your business, you need to do the self work. I recommend engaging in some form of spiritual practice. We all may have different tendencies. My path is yoga and meditation. To some, it may be church, coaching, or coaching with a person who sees life holistically. Ultimately, self-development and spiritual growth will help you navigate business challenges with greater ease and success. Uh, this is also big to me, even though it may sound trivial, but everything comes from within. And I try to make sure that right now I am not so much attached actually to this specific business, and I'm on the path of transforming it from the way it is right now. But that was also part of my growth. And what I've learned that still, if we just think about things in our life in some sort of scattered way, that this is, I could be here, my business is there, my other projects are there, and some other things. I don't know, maybe who am I as the friend is somewhere else. And if within all of these aspects of ourselves, there is no, I would say, maybe thread that can unify and give us the holistic understanding of who we are, then those projects, they can, I don't know, maybe fail easier, or just not, let's not to use the word fail, but rather not push to the next level because they're scattered, versus when we have this amazing foundation that help us to be present in all aspects of our life. I call it God, divine. I think then all things in our life, they become clearer and easier to move forward and grasp the meaning. Pamela says, I find that my personal brand is my business, so I only concentrate on my posts on my personal page. Personal brand is the business. Well, this is also a good point, and I actually also know a few folks that they are. And in fact, I think that if we invest in our personal branding, it is important for us, and it ultimately is going to become our business to some extent. Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, and basically that is it, what I wanted to share for today. If somebody wants to share some thoughts, I am happy to have the engaging conversation. Maybe Jordan can invite some folks to unmute.
It's great. This market area is one that is very much so needed. I had to have surgery this year on
Mm,
my Achilles, and so for
mm,
2 months I was non-weight bearing, so I was utilizing a wheelchair, and just
mm,
navigating stores was so challenging. And I realized for the first time that a lot of businesses don't account for people in wheelchairs who actually want to come into the stores and actually want to shop. And it was such a challenge that at times I was like, I'm just going to shop online because that's just easier. So I think that it's great having this thought process and thinking for all business owners that have even if you don't have a storefront, if you're operating online, to just making sure that individuals that are able differently have access to your product. So I think it's great that you mentioned the things you mentioned today.
I think
Thank
that
you so much.
I'm sorry. I think that what
Go
you're
ahead, go
talking
ahead.
about there, Cheryl, happens with all the work that I do. Is they don't realize that the disabled or what money looks exactly the same as somebody who doesn't have a disability. But the one thing that they truly don't understand is if you welcome people who have a disability into your store, they are incredibly loyal.
Yes.
They
Yes.
are a loyal customer, and that is where they're going to shop.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
they have to start realizing that a lot more, because the disabled, 1 in 4 people have a disability, whether it's an invisible disability or a visible disability. So things have to change. They cannot stay the way they are.
I
Well,
agree.
ladies, thank you so much for saying that. And this is how, again, it helps, this conversation helps to bring back to the topic that I mentioned earlier. So when we have the conversation with the partners, to help them to see the bigger picture, that we're not just selling the clothing, but what kind of a change they can be also become part of, and how the future eventually can transform. I'm not going to mention the name of the retailer for out of respect, but I remember there was the time when we had another presentation, and I also invited my staff, models. They are not technically my staff, I just work with them. And I remember that the models, I was on the top floor, and one of them, she called me and she told me that, hey, Alina, I'm trying to get into the building, but the security told her to take stairs. She was in the wheelchair. And so by just simply not, I don't know how he was. I mean, I don't know how he was thinking, what he was thinking. So so things like that, they're minor things, and obviously probably later he realized that that was not very smart suggestion to the person and so on, but they happen. And that's why this shift and this better representation and having these products on the floor, or if somebody in the other business, and keep having the conversation, offering other solutions within accessibility. Ultimately, the way how I see it, it keeps working like that ad, you know, how they say that before we actually purchase the product, we need to see the thing, something 7 times, minimum 7 times. So before our mind actually starts generating sustainably and holistically and circularly these good new ideas, some time needs to happen. So if we want to make this change, we need to keep feeding everybody, you know, with this information. I mean, I'm kind of joking, but you know what I mean. We need to do what we're doing, and we need to stick with our community and work on the change, believe in ourselves, not to give up, think out of the box, and yes, and everything is going to be amazing.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
from your mouth to God's ears, right? Okay.
Huh?
I said from
I'm
your
sorry.
mouth to God's ears, as they say, like, bring it up there.
Right out there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you again, Alina, for an insightful webinar. I thank you. Our small business owners thank you. As a reminder to everybody here, this webinar was recorded. It'll be available on our website. You'll also receive an email in the coming days with access to that recording and the presentation slides from today. We organize our webinars on participant feedback, so there will be a survey as you close out of this session. If you could take that and let us know what you thought, that would be awesome. We have a large lineup of webinars scheduled for this year, pretty much every week from now till December right now. So all of that can be found on our website. I know I've been emailing people as well, but I will drop that link in the chat. And then I talked to Alina about this just a little bit before the session. But we are starting our ICCC programs up for the year. We are starting in just a couple weeks, kind of across our national footprint in a number of different cities. If you're interested in applying or nominating or sharing it with other people, there's some links in the chat there. It's on our website as well on icic.org. We would love to see all our alumni again, or see anybody that you think that should go through the program as well. So please check that out, apply, nominate, and share that far and wide. But other than that, we hope you enjoyed this webinar today. Thanks for joining us, and